Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Wilson. I'm the Director of Programming and Advocacy with New England Museum Association, and I am so happy to have you here today for our Small Museums PAG meeting. I appreciate you all taking the time, especially on a very hot summer day, to make time for this incredible topic. Because we have so much to cover in our meeting, I'm going to hand it right over to one of our two PAG chairs here to kick us off. So Doria Hughes and then Louise Seiko are our PAG chairs. Doria, it's all yours.
Hi and welcome everybody. I'm so glad that you all are here. This is delightful. Thank you for joining us. And welcome to the Small Museum PAG group. Uh, Louise and I and our cohort Samantha, who isn't here at the moment, are very pleased to share these topical points with you on a month-by-month basis. Our idea is just that it's an informal kind of conversation, like an ongoing thing for small museum people to share our concerns, talk about things that really matter to us and that are helpful to us. And with that in mind, for this month, our theme is basic graphic design. I don't know about you guys, but that's an area that I struggle with. And given that my small museum, the Rosemary Beck Foundation, has only 1.5 staff members, I being the 1.0 of that, a lot of it, as we all know, it's a very DIY situation and a lot of it falls to us. So we appreciate all the help we can get. And so with that in mind, I'm going to pass things over to my cohort, Louise, who represents the Museum of Bad Art, which is our featured small museum of the month. Louise, take it away.
Thank you. Um, I I'm here. I'm sorry. We are trying to feature a museum every one of the small museums every week in our show. And right now, I'm just stuttering here because I'm trying to get my PowerPoint ready to share, and I haven't done this for a very long time. I
Oh, and I
apologize.
just thought, while Louise is gathering those vital bits, wanted to mention one other thing, which is please, could you introduce yourselves in our chat? We wanted to do the round robin thing, but then we thought because we're going to have so much interesting information coming at us from our guest speaker, Jill Perry, that we wanted to make sure we give her as much time as possible to teach us, to school us on these wonderful issues of basic graphic design. So if you could please, in the chat, put your name and your small museum, represent where you're coming from in New England, and we'd love to know more about you and continue sharing. Thank you.
Okay, and are you seeing my slide?
No, did you share your screen, Louise?
I thought I had. Let me just get to. I'm so sorry about this. As I say, I haven't
Oh,
done it for a very long time. Ah, okay. I'm looking at my PowerPoint on my screen, and I'm not seeing where to share.
so if you go back into the Zoom call, there should be a green button at the bottom with it's a green
Jen,
arrow and it's a share. Yes.
you need to make her a co-host.
Thought I had. So sorry about that.
Share.
That might be it. There you go.
Have you got it?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
thought I just hit share.
Yep, there we go.
Oh, good. Okay. Sorry about that delay. Um, okay, I am Louise Riley Sacco. I'm one of the founders of the Museum of Bad Art, and appropriately, my title is Permanent Acting Interim Executive Director. Um, Museum of Bad Art was started when an art dealer found this painting, this kind of odd painting with a beautiful frame. His plan was to throw away the painting and keep the frame, but a friend of his said, "That's so bad, it's good, I want it." And that started this whole museum. The painting that started it, that was found leaning against a trash barrel, is Lucy in the Field with Flowers. And Lucy is, sorry, I'm sorry, I am really having a little bit of technical trouble because I haven't done this for so long. Here we go. The motion, the chair, the sway of her breast, the subtle hues of the sky, the expression on her face, every detail cries out masterpiece. When I show you mobile works, I will read our interpretation to help you appreciate the work. But once we got started with this thing, Boston newspapers and TV got interested in this museum in the basement of a little house in West Roxbury. As more people arrived to see MOBA, we realized this was not sustainable, and we were offered free space in the basement of the Dedham Community Theater. A few years later, we were also offered the basement of the Somerville Theater. We lost the space in Dedham and then also had to move out of Somerville. We were searching for a new venue when COVID shut down everything, and MOBA was homeless for almost 3 years. Finally, we connected with the Dorchester Brewing Company. They gave us wall space all over their facility. We show about 70 pieces. Admission is free, and you can have a beer or barbecue while you enjoy the art. And in 2024, we opened a second gallery in a 300-year-old stone building in Quebec's old city. It's also free to visit there. So that's where we are. What is MOBA? Well, the curator is always looking for the next piece, and we accept donations from all over the world, often from the artist who created the work. To be accepted, the piece must be a sincere attempt to make an artistic statement, but something has gone wrong, resulting in a compelling image. Sometimes it's just lack of skill. One need not sit on a dark night looking heavenward for the brightest stars. He has but to be in a darkened hall watching the greatest of the greats, the Osmonds. But more interesting are the pieces that demonstrate solid skills but reflect poor or incomprehensible decision-making. Can the swirling steam melt away the huge weight of George's corporate responsibilities? The painting is a fine example of labor-intensive pointlessism. After accepting a piece, but before sharing, we interpretate it. To merely interpret would be insufficient. We help visitors understand what they're looking at. Our comments are never mean or snarky about the art or the artists. If we make fun of anyone, it's over-the-top art writers and art critics. Of course, we're getting to the big question: what is museum quality bad art? Well, like pornography, it's difficult to define, but we know it when we see it. First of all, there are many things we do not collect, like paintings on velvet, paint by number, commercial art that's chosen to match the sofa. We're not interested in kitsch, children's art, or craft projects, or anything that's boring. All of our art is important to us, but we do not know any important art in the usual sense. For instance, Cat and Bird is a whimsical expressionist painting by Paul Klee. It was an attempt to create art reflecting childlike innocence. Klee's classic painting is way beyond our budget. But some MOBA favorites were inspired by the classics. For instance, Cat and Bird here was the inspiration for Sphinx, not. The ancient Egyptian Sphinx denotes wisdom and power with its human head and lion's body. Here we see quite the opposite. Another inspiration was The Milkmaid by Johannes Vermeer. We have our own milkmaid. Apparently fond of Vermeer's Milkmaid, the artist brightened her austere work environment with a lovely bouquet of flowers. And you probably know this trio of Renoirs from the Museum of Fine Arts and Musée d'Orsay. We have none of these. We do have Bailando. The artist celebrates the joy of social dancing in this delightful depiction of a Mexican couple. This artist made the interesting decision to depict 1.5 cows in a pastoral plein air painting while avoiding the inconvenience of going outside. The next piece is truly unique. Classic 1980s toys emanating from a jester gargoyle's mouth can only be described as puzzling. It's an example of what we call Rubik's Cubism. Artists often document their travels. This is the seldom visited women's section of Easter Island, a tiny, isolated island famous for its ancient stone figures known as Moai. Time and gravity have clearly taken their toll on this ancient statue. We have many animals, landscapes, and still lives, but most of our paintings portray people. We call them portraits. Lost puppy, no one to play with, nothing on TV. What sad fate has befallen this young beauty with the big red bow? Her life is so empty she must conjure an imaginary shelf on which to lean. Imagine our excitement when Sad Baby attended the opening of our exhibition in Taiwan. The Louvre has their icon, we have ours. This is a cross-gendered interpretation of the Da Vinci classic. Mona Lisa's nose is critical to the composition, offsetting the dialogue between the foreground and the profoundly varnished background. Like every major museum, we have many life studies. The cares of the day slip away, and the first flush of sleep brings color to Pauline's innocent cheek. MoBA curators believe this anonymous painter had never seen a naked woman, but was inspired by the works of Amedeo Modigliani. And here's a different sort of nude. Looking somewhat uncomfortable, the lithe subject is confined to the shape of the canvas in this revealing portrait. It was purchased at a Boston thrift store in 2008. The same thrift store, 12 years later, we found this. I'm sorry, I'm popped out of here again. Oh, I just lost this thing again. Slide. And I just don't know what's happening here. Rats. Here it is. I'm so apologize for that. The same thrift store 12 years later, the curator purchased this. Looking somewhat uncomfortable, the lithe subject is confined to the shape of the canvas in this revealing portrait. We have many versions of this traditional motif. The Holy Mother here is particularly beautiful. Her baby, not so much. As a lifelong Bostonian, I have to include at least one sports image. Number 10 looks comfortable in the batter's box. It appears that in his haste to begin the season, he stepped up to the plate wearing his comfy slippers. I can talk for hours about how this unlikely museum came to be, and even more unlikely has continued for 30 years. But I have about one more minute here. There were 5 people at the start. None of us knew anything about museums or really art. It was at first a one-time event, a house party, but it just kept going. We held a launch party for a virtual museum on CD-ROM, and a few reporters attended. One of them got us on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. This led to worldwide media, including CNN, London Times, Rolling Stone, New York Times. Of course, this meant more visitors, invitations to exhibit, and the requirement that we somehow become more professional. Today, MoBA is run by 2 volunteers, me and curator Michael Frank. We're still working on instinct and a shockingly stingy budget. We have about 900 pieces. We have galleries in Boston and Quebec. We've had shows in Tokyo, Taiwan, and around the US. We've published 2 books. We Zoom talks throughout US and Canada. We've succeeded in many ways, even though we don't know what we're doing. Most of the credit goes to Scott and Jerry, that art dealer and his friend, who came up with the brilliant idea in 1994. Having joined NEMA, we're learning, but our website still looks like this. Let me introduce the person who's going to help. Jill Perry is the owner of ThirdBird Creative in Portland. She develops graphic identities for a range of small organizations. Jill is passionate about her work and will address the importance of appropriate design, fonts, colors, etc. She'll tell us about some common design issues. She will even recommend resources and tools for those who need to do it themselves. Full disclosure, Jill is my daughter. I've stopped sharing and let her take over, and she is better with PowerPoint. Go ahead, Jill.
Thanks, Mom. Yes, hello. I'm Jill, and I'm here in Portland, Maine. First of all, thank you all for having me here today. I'm so glad to be here. It was so fun to see all those museums pop up in the chat. I realized I need to get out more. There's so much great stuff to do in New England that I haven't seen, so very cool. There's a lot here. We're probably not going to get through it all. And so I just wanted to say that I am going to share this with all of you after this presentation. There's tons of links. There's a whole section at the end with lots of resources. So no matter how far we get, you're going to have this to go through at your own pace and explore all of these great resources. Okay, so first, as I was building this, it kept getting larger and larger, and I had to keep paring it down and paring it down. And of all of these things, the one that was going to, that had to go was the 5 things that I'm going to address directly. The 4th thing was logos, and it's a really important subject, but it ended up just being massive. And so I took it out. We're going to talk about these 4 things. If we get to it, we'll talk about logos. If not, another time, or we can you can just read about it in the notes. But yeah, I know I don't have a lot of time here. So okay, so first of all, I'm Jill. I own an independent design studio in Portland, Maine, ThirdBird Creative. I started this about 2 years ago. Before that, I was in the craft beer industry on the branding, creative, and merchandise side for over 20 years. So my contact info will be linked at the end of this presentation if you'd like to see some of my work, or if you have questions that don't get answered today, or of course, if you ever need design help. So to start at the beginning, I wanted to take a moment to talk about what graphic design actually is. Graphic design is about communication and meaning. And a good graphic designer is going to make every single choice based on meaning and intention. The cool thing is that good design is not created through guesswork or talent or creativity. Good design is created through applying proven principles to a composition. Of course, artistic vision, creativity have influence, but generally, good design can be achieved just through following some rules. And a few of those we're going to get into shortly. So graphic design is not about making things look pretty, and it's really not even about taste or style. There can be very well-designed compositions that are not at all what I or other people may consider great style, but they convey information clearly. They're easy to navigate. There's a sense of clear organization. So whether I like it or not, it's still good design. Graphic design is also not branding, although they're linked and very difficult to extract from one another. But branding is the attachment of a name and a reputation to something or someone to distinguish it from the competition. It's a set of values that defines a character. And good brands, good businesses that are branding well are going to connect emotionally with their clients, and graphic design is something that helps them do so. So why does design matter? At its most basic level, graphic design works to enhance communication. So it can be used to organize information, as I just said. It can be used to tailor communication or logos or packaging to appeal to a specific demographic, or it can be used to provide context. It also conveys professionalism or a lack thereof. Humans make judgments based on how something looks constantly. So if your website, your socials, your brochure does not look professional, people are going to make decisions about your business based on that feeling. And it also creates trust that you know what you're doing, that your visitors are going to have a positive experience when they visit your museums. For instance, I like to give the example of like when you're traveling and you're looking to find somewhere to go out to dinner, and you might see somewhere on TripAdvisor that has 5 stars, looks great, and you follow the link to their website, And when you get there, the specials menu they have is from 2022 and the reservations link isn't working. And there are images with broken links. Like chances are you're not going to go there. You don't trust that you're going to have a good experience. And vice versa. When you come across the site that has today's special posted and they have, simple, easy reservation system that you can access right there. And, maybe there's a notice about a parking situation or something that's going to help you navigate. Like I trust those folks. I'm in on that one. And then ease of interaction. So this can be more subliminal or it can be pretty apparent, but it's very important that if you have a website that's difficult to navigate, people are just not staying there. Or if they have to sift through paragraphs of information to find what they need, they're going to be turned off. Side note, I'm using websites as examples a lot here only because they're like a really accessible thing for all of us. And so these design principles that we're going to talk about, these, well, 4 or 5, depending how far I get, they applied it to everything, but I just use a lot of websites as examples. So these are the 5 things that we're going to get into today. We're going to talk about space. We're going to talk about hierarchy, typography, and color. And maybe logos, maybe not. That might be drifting off to the side. We'll see. Yeah, so let's jump in. Space, less is more. So space is commonly called white space in design, and white space is crucial for enhancing readability, creating a clean, sophisticated look. It makes content easier to digest and reduces cognitive overload. And really, we're looking for just less on a page, less in a section. Less is more. You're going to hear me say that multiple times today. But white space is not space that is white. It can be any color. It's just a place that allows the eye to rest. And the reason I picked these topics are because these are things that I see really, really commonly that as problems on websites and other places, but they can be fixed really easily too. So, yeah, using white space, it just helps direct focus. It's so impactful to use white space. It conveys confidence, like you know what you're saying, you're not afraid of it. Here it is. And it gives the viewer a sense of calmness and it helps them process information. So even photos with active subjects like this, like they kind of function as white space, as this one does, because it almost allows your eye to rest with that pattern, even though it's a photograph. When there is not enough white space in a composition, it becomes much more difficult for viewers to comprehend the information, and it feels crowded and stressful. It's like, to me, I always see this as someone incessantly mumbling with no real beginning or end. Whereas a good use of white space is applied, it's like someone is speaking clearly and emphatically. And the thing is that most people, almost everyone, is afraid of white space when they're starting to make something. They're like, oh, it's empty. We have to fill it up. We have to fill it up. Don't do it. It's like you got to resist and just give the things you're saying some space to be seen and to be heard. And it really creates a sense of ordered communication. So here we're going to take a peek really quickly at a not so lovely use of space on a website and a very lovely use of space. So this one, you can see there's definitely a lot of space here, but I'm pretty sure that's not intentional space, that there's obviously something wrong with the formatting here. But if you look at this space of this Fawcett's Toy Museum here that is, active, everything is just crowded in. There is no rest. It's just lots of copy, lots of photos, very crowded. And you just, there's no place that lets you actually see any of this without really sifting through things. But then this is the New Zealand Liberation Museum, and how beautiful. They have this great hero image at the top. There are little bits of information here spread out across the top. But then this to me is a beautiful example of white space, right? There's so much room. It's so ordered. You can see exactly what you're looking for. They're also not trying to give you all the information on the page, right? It's like a little bit and find out more, find out more. And this is really a key to decluttering your website, giving people a little taste and just the buttons to get to the next section. Even their maps are they're spacious, they're gorgeous. Each section here, one little bit of information and get more, one bit of information. It feels so calm. And I mean, even this, I love these. They're going to tell these stories here. They're not trying to crowd it all into this section, right? They give you a little bit of flavor, this beautiful space photograph, kind of slash between those things in the background, and then find out more. So yeah, this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous use of space. Um, so in a nutshell, that one, get comfortable with space in your projects, and it's going to instantly improve their readability, ease of interaction, overall feel. And then number 2 is hierarchy. So this is another aspect of design that really helps viewers understand and move through a composition. Hierarchy can be affected by a whole number of things, including sizing, color, contrast, alignment. Take a look here. In this composition, there is very little hierarchy, right? There is some because we naturally read top to bottom. So that first thing will get the most attention by default. But otherwise, this lack of hierarchy is not helping us understand the content. Everything seems to have the same level of importance. And it's also just boring to look at, right? But here we have the same copy, but we've applied hierarchy. So through type size and type weight, our brains are like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Thanks. It just helps us understand. It also feels more dynamic overall. The variation in text size and weight starts to create some texture. In terms of deciding what sizes to use, how big is big, how small is small, and how do you determine this? We're going to talk about that when we get to typography. The really cool thing is that it's not a guessing game. There's a formula so that it looks great every single time. So we're going to get there in just a moment. But here are a couple of hierarchy things. The Historic Village Diner here. So there's a whole lot of issues here, which we don't really have time to tackle. But this section right here kind of killed me with the hierarchy here in the middle. It's like there are all these bits of information. They're crowded in there together. Some things are a little bigger, some are a little larger, but I don't know. I don't know where my eye is supposed to go next, right? It's like I kind of go to regular hours and then I'm going up and then I'm going back down. And it's like it's just not very clear what is the most important thing there. Here, History Museum, again, beautiful hero image here at the top, but they have this lovely title here for the exhibit, and then a detail much smaller down below, and then another one in a different color. So 3 bits of information. But as you scroll down, they keep using this format. So they have this lovely large title, a tiny bit of secondary information above, a little bit of copy, and a link. And it's you can tell exactly what the most important thing is here. It's the title, and that's what's going to, lead you in. And they have great space here too. A lot of space for these things to breathe. And then they keep using that same format. So your brain, like you really start to just understand, even if you're not aware of it, that repetition, that same use of space, the same use of hierarchy is really, really well done. Big, small, smaller, big, small, smaller. And then here too, overall on the site, they have those big images with big links. And then down here at the bottom, here's like kind of some secondary things. They're smaller, right? They're 3 in a row. So it's kind of overall decent hierarchy as well. So yeah, they do a good job there. So that one, really type, size, weight, arrangement, and color are all ways to create hierarchy. Get in there, try out some really big text, contrast it with some smaller text, and then smaller still. And you can employ color as well to help. So number 3 is typography. Typography is a vast subject. I'm going to try and just touch on a couple of aspects today that are common issues, share a little bit about font categorization and usage. But again, at the end of the presentation, I've linked a ton of resources if you want to dig in a little deeper. But generally, in typography, our driving thoughts are keep it simple and less is more, as with most of these topics. Before we get into it, just a note to clear up the difference between a typeface and a font, which is something that many people struggle with, or they misuse the terms by using them interchangeably. But basically, a typeface is a family of fonts like Helvetica, which is what I used for this presentation. A font is a specific version of the typeface, like Helvetica Bold. So typeface is family, font is the version of that family. When you're selecting fonts to use in any kind of composition, these 4 things are going to be crucial to keep in mind. And I'm going to touch on each really briefly. Sticking to basics, like really the standard fonts are kind of the standard fonts for a reason. They are readable, they're familiar, they're highly functional in terms of including everything you will need, including multiple weights and glyphs and diacritical marks, alternate alphabets. They usually have everything. Helvetica that I used for this presentation is the 2nd most used typeface in the world. and it likely feels familiar and trusted to you just on a subliminal level. You might not even be aware of it. And these standard fonts, they're also often web-safe fonts, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But generally, there's no reason to really go find, abstract, crazy fonts, especially for bodies of copy. It's just safer to stick to those basics. And then in selecting fonts, especially on websites, making sure they are readable is crucial. So display fonts should be used very sparingly. Again, stay away from things that are ornate, hard to read, script fonts, etc. But size, weight, and color also contribute to readability as well. The generally agreed upon minimum text size for websites is 12 points or 16 pixels, especially for ADA compliance, which we're going to talk about on the next slide. But also thin font weights cannot show up very well at times. And bold weights can look muddy, like little blobs, especially at small sizes. So just being really careful with that is going to benefit you quite a bit. And so, so color. Okay. So ADA is the Americans with Disabilities Act, and this is a set of guidelines to ensure that all people can access the content of your website regardless of their ability. It spans many things. It spans many areas, from things like providing descriptions for all the photos on your site so that if a visually impaired person is visiting your website, they get a description of what the photo is. They get that read aloud to them. To things like contrast for bodies of text, which is what we're going to talk about now. So the color of the background behind a body of copy and the color of the copy need to meet a minimum level of contrast in order to be considered ADA compliant. This image was taken from a brand guide that I created for a client so that he and his staff and anyone else that might be helping them with their website or their social media would have these combinations for what they could use and what they cannot use. And even outside of ADA compliance, there are some color combinations that even if you have decent vision are just really hard to read, like that green and red there. This one, I mean, it makes the letters wiggle, like it hurts my eyeballs. So even really outside of ADA compliance, you want to make sure you're using really good contrast here. So this is the WebAIM website, and this is an incredible tool for all things ADA, like not just this color contrast thing. There's tons of information here, resources, articles, guidelines to make sure your website is compliant. But this one is especially cool. And so all it is here is like, I like to do the background first, but you go to this little background section here, click on this color, get the little eyedropper tool, and I'm just going to click on my background color over here. So that was red, right? Okay, so now that's in there. I'm going to go on the foreground, grab my little eyedropper, click that in there. And so then down here, we can see I have failed all the levels. And this is not ADA compliant, right? And these levels, the AA is kind of the minimum of what you want to meet. The AAA is really good. Like you're really being friendly to most people. And these can be different at different sizes of text too. Like there are some combinations that will pass for larger text. They're not going to work for smaller text. And it's somewhere on the site, it designates what qualifies for each of those. And then graphical objects as well. So if you have a button, things like that, like does it meet the requirement? But you can keep doing this. So say I went back now and I'm like, all right, what's going to pass? I'm going to grab my little eyedropper again. So what if my background was white? Oh, look, it passes, right? So it changes immediately. So you can test any piece of text to see if you're passing and how you're doing. So great tool, lots of other resources there. And again, that's going to be linked for you in this presentation after. So also in readability, I mentioned web-safe fonts. So web-safe fonts are fonts that are pre-installed on the vast majority of computers and devices so that you have the best chance of your text appearing as you intended it to for the largest number of people. Non-web-safe fonts can appear differently than you want them to on some devices, including messing up formatting of a page, or they can be substituted with replacement fonts that you may not want or can screw things up. And the viewer of your website, they're not aware that something has changed or that you intended something different. All they know is what they see. And so this is a list of the standard web-safe fonts. And really keeping your website, or at least, bodies of copy on your website to one of these is really a good idea. And then you want to make sure that your typography is fitting to your subject matter. So all typography has connotation and meaning in and of itself. And this is why typography can help in communicating an idea. But as we see here, it can also hurt. And these are, of course, extreme examples. But we do see them in real life all the time. And, like I'm not going to that spacious, restful country manor. Like I don't believe it. Like that looks, aggressive and crazy. Um, and yeah, when inappropriate or unfitting fonts are used, it can be extremely confusing to the viewer. In some cases, it's as if the font is actually saying more than the words themselves, and we're left with an impression that is likely not what the creator intended. And, when consumers are making these decisions, they're seeing these things, these first impressions matter. Okay. In a composition on a website, I say no more than 3 fonts in a composition. Some would argue 2. I agree, never more than 2 typefaces, 2 different families, but fonts, different weights, I feel like 3 can be fine. But you certainly don't want to do what you see here, which is like all these different crazy fonts. It just creates chaos for your viewers. It's really confusing. I put on there and this is what I think every time I see this. It's like meeting a person with multiple personalities. You're just confused, you're unsettled. So just keep it to 3, 2 if you're being really good, but just don't use tons of different fonts in there. And some connotations, as I said, all fonts carry with them their own meaning, their own character. Here are some general connotations of font styles that might help you in your decision making. Serif fonts are traditional, they're elegant, they're sophisticated. Serif fonts are the easiest to read in print, which is why most books are printed in serif fonts. Sans serif are minimalistic, they're modern, they're clean. And these are considered the easiest to read on the web for bodies of copy. So if you have bodies of copy on your website, it generally should be in a sans serif font. And then script fonts, they are artistic, creative, romantic. They should be used sparingly. They're wonderful for accent usage. They've been really popular over the last few years in this way. But beyond that, just be really careful, as they can be difficult to read in a few ways. But also, younger people like Generation Z and after, many of them cannot read script at all. So especially if your audience is a younger one, you might want to keep that in mind. And then display fonts, they're intended for exactly that. Displays, headlines, titles, product, company names, never ever for bodies of copy. So they're so fun, they're so attractive, but they also carry more meaning and connotation than standard fonts do. They evoke super specific eras, entities, activities, like they can just be so specific. And so distracting, and sometimes in a really good way, but you just want to be sure that it's right for what you're trying to say when you're using display fonts. And then another aspect of typography. These are some issues that I see quite a bit, and they're both pretty easy to fix. Or I guess I shouldn't say both. I think it's 3 things. But line length is a major readability issue. If the lines are too long, the viewer's eye starts to jump lines. It's just hard to read. As well, too short is also difficult to read because the eye has to jump back and forth and it gets lost. So general guidelines are that you want a minimum of 35 characters per line in a body of copy and a maximum of 65. And there are tools in most programs that will help you figure this out. You don't have to sit there and count letters per line or anything like that. Really, there's a lot of tools that will help you. Not aligning pieces of text is another way to create chaos in a composition. Like you can see all those pieces just look like they're floating. And then lastly, awkward line length. As you can see here, you really never want to have one word by itself on the last line of a body, or even here where there's 2 words. The lines are so off kilter that it just looks crazy. But then here, same bodies of copy, but it's all aligned. It's so nice. I feel calmer already. One thing about line length too, it's just being aware of it. Like even if you just have a rough idea of this concept in your head, it'll be better than if it's not thought about. Even if you don't remember the exact number, if you just go, wait a minute, that looks really long, that's great. Yeah. And so Fibonacci. So this is a big area, but I'm just going to show you this little chart, which you can reference anytime, but Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio are ancient formulas that they determine a bunch of different things in design, and they're based on patterns that are found in nature, like pine cones and seashells. It's also found in mathematic principles, and it's named for Leonardo of Pisa, who, AKA his like nickname was Fibonacci. So he's generally credited with discovering it, although there's some controversy around that. But anyway, Fibonacci sequence. And it's a sequence of numbers in which each of the numbers is the sum of the two that precede it. So here we're using it as a tool to determine type sizes, and it naturally produces appealing results. It's best to jump a number in the sequence for really good contrast, but one step works as well. So you can see sequence 1 there. We start with number 8. 8 plus 13 is 21. 13 plus 21 is 34. 34 plus, you can see as you go along, right? You add the two numbers to get the next one. But in the word Fibonacci there, I'm using size 55 type, and the words for type are in 21. So I have this little chart like taped up behind my computer, because everything I do, if I'm using size 8 type and I need a headline, I look up and I'm like, okay, 13. It's so easy. You don't have to think about it. It's a really great tool, and you can find it in a lot of places on the web, but I've linked it here at the end too. So just a great little thing to know, and it makes your life easier. All right, let's look at some lovely and some not so lovely typography. Okay, this is a crazy one. Holy moly. Meyer Bakery, they're somewhere in Germany, but okay, so first of all, this red on yellow text here, this is 100% not ADA compliant. I will tell you that. These little categories up here, this drives me nuts that like we have double capitalization, we have one capitalization, we have no capitalization. Do them all the same, whatever you're doing. That's just a thing. But as we get down here, see, this is what I'm talking about with these long lines. That's really hard to read, right? This crazy long line there. And then they do these things where they're leaving one word on a line, which is what I mentioned, and it just looks awkward, where it's like, if you just made this one size smaller font, or you change the text box just a little bit, it would look so much more organized and just easier to read. And again, they have these super long lines of text down here. I don't know what this huge cake is about. That's a whole other issue. But yeah, these really long lines, and just, it's just awkward. So I feel like they could break this up a couple of columns, it would just look much better. And then this one, Monk's Own, holy mackerel. I thought this was a joke. I know you can't, I don't think anyone with good vision could even read this. The size, the color, terrible. And I thought, well, they have this, don't try to read this stuff, just enter above. And I thought, well, maybe it's like a joke. And then you go in here and it's like worse. These insane lines of text, it's just, that should, yeah. But Cooper Hewitt Museum, look at these guys. So beautiful, beautiful. Simple, right? There is one font everywhere. It's black and white. It's so basic, very lovely to read. They have the orange here, but even that creates like some real organization. And they do this with these boxes of text, which I don't love that, but you know what? It's really easy to read. I understand it because it's repeated. It's great. And then they use the same font, here it's on color, but really beautiful, really easy to read. Yeah, they did a great job with it. So jump over to color. Just a few notes about using color and some things to think about. Color harmony is another one of the tools that takes the guesswork out of design. By using the color wheel, you can select colors that complement each other with these little formulas that you see on there. So of any of the 6 harmonies shown here, you can move that little shape around the wheel and create a complementary color palette, or a really appealing color palette. And there's a little more to this in terms of selecting tones and tints. But the thing is, there are tons of online tools. I've linked a bunch of them at the end of the presentation that just does this for you, where you can type in a brand color, a color of a wall, whatever it is, and it will select colors for you that work with it in multiple versions. But it's really important that you are using colors that, that aren't clashing with each other. Um, the psychology of color is another thing to keep in mind, that just like typography, color brings meaning with it, both positive and negative. Um, Ratio of how you're using them, what colors are being used in combination, a whole bunch of things like that are also good to know. These are some positive ones. There are also negative things, and one thing to think about too is that if your museum is in an area that has a high population of a certain ethnicity, and you are, I assume, trying to appeal to this group, it might make sense to do a little research on the colors you're using and what it might indicate to them, because it does change a lot through different cultures, what colors mean to them and how important that is. So, yeah, just something to think about there. And then when you're using colors too, how much of them you're using becomes really important. And there's this general 60-30-10 rule, or sometimes you'll find 70-20-10, but the main idea is that one color or two colors in unison, it can be, should comprise the majority of the piece. And then one color is quite a bit less, and the last color is just a little sprinkling. And this helps with hierarchy, it helps with emphasis. It just helps people, again, sort of understand your information. And again, just like the line length thing, you don't have to be like calculating the exact percentage, but just knowing that, like, use one color as a main color and the other one less, and then a little sprinkling of a pop of color. It's going to be great. And this is just an example here, like, on the left there, we have a nice neutral color for the background, and they're using, this bright blue and pink and gold as these little accents, and it's beautiful, right? Really fun. All the buttons are in pink, which is great. It helps us understand, like, oh yeah, all info is in pink. And then on the right, oh my God, it gives me anxiety to look at it. It's just too much, right? It's too much of everything. They also have some readability issues there with the black on the blue. Um, and then the buttons are in different colors, so it's not quite as intuitive. But you can just see here how you're using your colors matters a lot. Yeah, and so some examples. So here's someone that's using color not so well. It's just a little overwhelming and too much, and a little bit of some of those colors would be beautiful. But yeah, that's, it just feels a little dissettling, I guess. Um, Brooklyn Museum, oh my gosh, I love what they do with color. This neon green is like their signature color, but they use it, look, in this tiny little bit, and they don't put it everywhere, but it's their color and how they use it. We'll see a little bit more later on, but even here, like, they have this big gold photograph, and oh yeah, let's put our buttons in purple because that's a color harmony. Those two colors are opposite each other on the color wheel. And then these big blocks here, yellow, red, and blue, those are the primary complementary colors. And so it's beautiful, and it's helping us understand, different pieces of information. Oh yeah, look, there's a tiny little bit of that green again. And that's all you need for that color because it's so overwhelming. It's so bright, and it's beautiful how they use it. I'll tell you too, these photographs here change, and there's always a tiny little bit of that color in every photograph they put here. It's brilliant how they use it. It's absolutely brilliant. Um, and then a slightly calmer green, but it's just stunning the way they use color. I love those guys. All right, so tools and resources. Now, these are a few things that are going to make all of this so much easier for you. Um, these are all design websites for non-designers. They make designing things incredibly easy by offering templates, pre-made graphics, stock photography, animations, everything you need. If you're familiar with one of these or more, it's likely Canva. Canva is, I think, the most well-known, and it really does have a great reputation. They all have different pros and cons, different pricing. Most have a free version and then a pro level or something equivalent. I think the Canva pro level is about like $120 a year. It's not that bad, but you probably wouldn't even really need that. Yeah, it just unlocks different features and things like that. But the reason why these sites are so valuable and so useful for non-design folks is that they do it all for you, and then you just customize. So as long as you don't mess with the templates too much, you end up with a really decent design. I thought we could take a look here in Canva. This is my Canva, so yours would look slightly different, but really, you pop in here and you kind of decide what you need to make that day. We could say, hey, we need to make a presentation. and it pulls up presentations and then all these choices, and you just pick one that you like. Gosh, what would I like? I don't know. Oh, look, museums here. Let's use this one. Apply all 10 pages. So these are slides now that are done for me. And all I go in, I'm just going to click on it and it's intuitive and I can, write something new here. And, it's so easy. They're so user friendly. They have they have design school, which is kind of amazing. I get there. Here they have this help and resources design school. So especially when you're starting, all these tutorials are right here in Canva. There's so much you can do. Spend a little time. There's so many things it offers. When we go back to our project here, say this was our project, you can go in here and they have all these graphics that are just available for you to use. I mean, here, like, oh, I love this leaf, and you pop that in there, and then look at this cool shape. Like, it's just so easy, dragging and dropping. They're really, really fun, and they allow you to do so many things. So I really recommend exploring some of those. It allows you to do so much on your own. And then the same here with websites. I'm sure you've all heard of Squarespace and Wix, but they're just getting easier than ever to use. And just like the general design sites, they offer templates, color palettes, built-in font pairings, and you still get to customize them. The danger is that you can start off with one of these beautiful templates and you can edit the crap out of it until it's unrecognizable and you've lost the value of the original structure. But as long as you kind of stay within their guidelines, you can really do these things yourself. And yeah, the services they offer now are also really versatile. Like a few years ago, you kind of needed Shopify or something to sell merchandise online, but you can do your stores directly in these sites now, for actual products or for print on demand, which is an entirely additional product, which you should probably, I'm going to show you. Yeah, I'm going to show you print on demand. Some of you may be familiar, some of you may not. This is my shop on my website, with my merchandise. None of these things exist in the world. This is all print on demand. So when you go to a print on demand site, I've linked a bunch at the end of the presentation. You create these products and you can link them to your site and people can buy them. And then when they order them, Printful makes it and ships it to them. So it doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to do anything. They're amazing. You won't make as much profit, like you make slightly less because Printful will take more of however much you mark them up. But for small museums especially, I think this is a lovely, lovely thing. I would give the caution of you should order each item before you sell it to other people because there is quite a bit of variation in quality between different sites and even between items within a site. So just make sure you kind of see what you're getting before you're selling it to other people. But really, really fun to use those sites. Yeah, and so I've linked a bunch again at the end. But at the end of the day, really, like, depending how much time you have available to spend working on these things and how much time you have to take learning them, they can be wonderful. That being said, it's still a good idea to have a good relationship with a designer. So ideally, you would have a designer do your logo or logos, help you with a brand kit, and then you're armed with all these tools to approach these new technologies that you can use with really nice assets. And also if you have really specialized templates, for example, like I do a lot of menus for restaurants around here, and I do them in Canva for these people because then they go in to Canva. This is like restaurant owners. They're not design people, and they can update their menus and, and then they call me when they're like, Jill, I messed it up. Everything's a mess. Can you fix it? And I'm like, yeah, you can share that file together. So I go in and I clean it up and then they're good to go. And then they do it until something goes, and then they call me. So it's really good to have a designer who can kind of help you. Yeah. But then once you have it, you can DIY your website, your presentations, your merchandise, printed materials through those design sites or those website builders, if you have a little bit of time. So, and then one last note on how to access professional design if you're on a budget. So I would reach out to local schools around you that have design programs. They're always looking to partner with people who need design work, or really design schools anywhere. It's really great experience for students to work with real companies. And then new designers or students, like, barter with them. If you might have assets that would really value a new designer or a student. Like, if you have a really good social media following and this is a new designer that's really looking to get their name out there, and you say, hey, listen, like, could we do partial payment by me tagging you on social media and giving you this exposure? New designers and students, that's really valuable. Or maybe you have a space in your museum that, like, someone's getting married and they're like, oh my gosh, I can have my rehearsal dinner there. So think about what you have that you can barter. And then as well, small business grants are often available in communities, and they often lie unclaimed. So yeah. And I know it's like 1 minute left, and I have more if anyone wants to stick around. If not, I'll just share this with all of you. And I'm so sorry I went through all of that so quickly. Please send me any questions if you want to chat by email. And I'm going to send you this with all these super fun resources at the end. Yeah.
Jill, that was phenomenal. I feel like I learned so much. The site where you could use like the little eyedropper thing to sort of test your colors for ADA compliance with each other, like I could really like the Fibonacci sequence to determine like contrasting font sizes. Was like
Oh,
I love it when it's like science shows it's right. I mean, that's just like there's a lovely logic to that. So thank you very, very much. And
yeah.
so and you'll be and of course this was recorded. And so through Nima we'll be able to sort of review some of this because I think I'm gonna want to rewatch some of this, frankly. And the links, it's just phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah, there's quite a bit more that I didn't get to. Really, some really great links of museums with great websites in here, and a whole bunch of resources. So yeah, I'll share this with all of you, or with you, and you can share it with everybody. Yeah.
Oh, it's such
Yeah.
a boon. I really, really appreciate that. So I know we're almost coming to the end, and I just wanted to quickly make a shout out to everybody to join us again next month. It will be Tuesday, July 29th, and we are going to be digging into the theme of HR, human resources at that point. So stay tuned for more. But yes, please be in touch with us. And Jen, did you want to say something just to kind of close us out about sharing the video and the links and getting some of this information from Jill?
Yeah, sure. So we'll upload the video to YouTube this week and we'll get it out. Jill, I'll connect with you about the slides, and if there are any other links that you want to share, I'll send that out to everybody probably by the end of this week. So you have it. And Jill, I'll also share your email address with folks if they want to be in touch with further questions. And then, as always, Neva in general, has a really robust calendar. So feel free to take a look at our calendar page with all of our upcoming events because there are for small museums, a lot of our other PAGs are also doing work that impacts you on smaller scales. So always feel free to check out other things if you're looking for specific events as well. If you want me to relay information to Doria, Louise, and Samantha, always let me know. I'm happy to convey ideas. And finally, thank you all for being here on a hot summery day. This
Keep
is a
cool,
great presentation,
everyone.
Jill. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Stay cool, stay
Bye.
hydrated. And we'll see you next month. We'll see you in July.
Mhm.